Hi, I'm Rick Conlow. Welcome. We're going to talk about excellent customer service, how to be a superstar care provider to customers. And it really is all about care. CARE stands for customers are really everything. And you can also make a case, if you're not on the front line, but you serve those who are, CARE is coworkers are really everything as well. So let's talk about this. What is the best in customer service do? And I should mention to you that I've traveled 2 million miles in airlines, and I've been all across the US and Canada and globally as well, and have been able to see people who do the best in customer service and people who don't. And in our global management consulting business, we have helped companies achieve record-breaking customer service. So the things I talk about and share with you are the things that make a difference. And someone once told me this, that small things done consistently in strategic places create major impact. So look for the things that we talk about as we get in this. And by the way, we've put this material in our new book called Superstar Customer Service. It's all about care. So let's talk about it. We found that there are 5 key moments of truth that define whether or not you're the best or the worst. Now, I don't know about you. If you're going to do your job, wouldn't you want to be the best at it? I would think so. And so that's what I want to dig into. Now, notice I use the word moments of truth. A moment of truth is anything you do, directly or indirectly, that affects the customer's perception of you or the company that you work with. And so notice now, a moment of truth can be negative, it could be neutral, and it can be positive. And we've come up with words for each of these to define these so you can get those in your mind in terms of the behaviors that you do. So what are they? See, a moment of truth can be a moment of misery. A moment of misery is when you do less than what the customer expects. A moment of truth can be a moment of mediocrity. In other words, what you do is no worse than anybody else. Could you imagine that as a great slogan for a company? You put it up there in a banner for the company. It says, "We're no worse than anybody else." I don't think we want to have that. And I don't think you want that for your performance review either. And then a moment of truth can be a moment of magic. And our friend Shep Hyken trademarked that term. And we agree with him because a moment of magic is when you exceed the customer's perception. When you do more than they expect. When you put such a memory in their mind that they can't wait to tell other people about you or your company and can't wait to come back and work with you again. And isn't that the way you want it done? Because think about it. What's the payoff for you as an employee if you can turn those moments of truth and those high-powered moments, those moments of magic? You become a superstar. You excel at what you do. And it puts you in a better position to get performance increases and new odd job opportunities in your company. Or, heaven forbid, another opportunity somewhere else. Now here's what we found. That there are 5 key moments of truth that separate the average performers from the best performers. And here they are. They're mental psych, they're the greeting, they're meeting the need, they're handling problems if one comes up or dealing with a complaint, and they're following through. And I'm going to touch on each one of these in just a few moments to help you have a definition so you can perform these with excellence. Let's talk about the first one. Mental psych. Wow. What does that have to do with customer service when you think about it? Here's the thing. The first step to taking care of your customer has nothing to do with the customer. It has everything to do with you first. Because if you're not right up here, how are you going to take care of the customer? If you're feeling bad, if you're depressed, isn't that going to come across in some way in terms of your attitude and behavior with the customer? See, let me ask you a question about that too. Let's say you're sick. And you go to work anyway. I mean, you're not sick enough to stay home, but you're just not feeling well. But you go to work, and you're at work. Being sick, is that any reason to do less than your best with a customer? I don't think so, do you? Because if you were on the other side of that, and you were the customer, and you had an employee who wasn't feeling well, and they were just going through the motions, you wouldn't like that as a customer, would you? See, it's no excuse. Or how about this one? Let's say your boss criticized you about something. Maybe there was some paperwork that you didn't quite get done right, and the boss said, "Now, if you don't do that right, I'm going to have to write you up." That's not a very good situation, and heaven forbid that would ever happen to you. But let me ask you a question. Because your boss criticized you, is that a good excuse to do less than your best for a customer? I think you'd agree with me, it isn't. And so what we have to do, regardless of the situation, is make a mental switch here from our concern to the customer's concern so we can take care of the customer and deliver superb service to them. I met a man named Charlie Whitaker, and Charlie was in the all-time best of car salespeople for Lincoln Mercury. And I always made it a point that when I heard of great service providers to try to get a chance to talk with them and interview them. And so I did that with Charlie. And I spent some time with him, and I tell you what, people were loving him. I mean, he was selling cars left and right, and he always had a smile on his face. He was helpful to the people around him. And finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I went up to Charlie and I said, Charlie, don't you ever have a bad day or a bad moment? And he looked at me and he said, Rick, some days are better than others. But my customer, he goes, deserves my best from me all the time. And it's mental psych, he goes, that gets me through. And he talked to me about a process he's used mentally, regardless of how he's feeling or how he's doing, or what the circumstances are around him, to help him deliver awesome service to his customer. And he did it. I saw Charlie sell $60,000, $70,000 automobile on the phone to customers. How many of you would spend that kind of money on an automobile with a car salesperson? Not too many, but they did it with him. And he sold the grandparents and everything. He was, he sold over 8,000 Lincoln Mercurys in his career. He was a superstar. And so as I learned more about what superstars do, I found that they had a mental stick. And it really comes down to three things that I'll briefly touch base with you on. And they do this. They see it, they say it, and they do it. In other words, what they do is visually they get a mental picture of the kind of service they're going to deliver. And they hold that in their mind. If they're not feeling well, they get that picture of great service in their mind. Okay? If the circumstances around them are a little chaotic, they get that picture in their mind. It only takes a few moments to see it. And then what they do is they verbalize it. Now, they don't walk down the hall in the workplace go, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. They don't do that. But what they do is they say it to themselves. They say, I can do this. I serve customers great. I'm the best. I'm going to get it done. And then you know what they do? They do it. They vitalize it. They get it done. And it only takes a few moments. Really, these three sayings, see it, say it, do it, or visualize, verbalize, vitalize, are a summary of peak performance research that's out there today. And if you can grasp that mentally and learn to do it in a matter of seconds or a minute or so, and do that as you prepare to serve a customer, and then learn to do it unconsciously, in time you'll become a superstar at what you do. And isn't that what you want to do? You'll deliver great service. You'll get all kinds of compliments. People will talk about you, and it sets you up to use your skills to serve that customer well. Then that leads us to the second thing, and that's the greeting. Now, the greeting is just saying, hi, I'm Rick. How can I serve you? That kind of thing. It's politeness. It's courteousness. It's friendliness. In one organization we work with, they use the term friendly service. And the reason is because people weren't that friendly in their company for a while. But they learned. And you know what? They beat the largest company in the world head to head. They've had great growth and great loyalty come out of their result to become more friendly, courteous, positive, and polite with their customers. Now, why is that so important? Because the truth of the matter is, according to research, almost 7 out of 10 reasons why customers don't want to work with a company is because of the discourteous, unfriendly employees. Can you believe that? 7 out of 10. Well, I think you could believe it, because think about it. How many of you have been somewhere to spend your money, and you've got somebody behind that counter or on that show floor who is discourteous and kind of rude? Isn't that true? Didn't you have that happen to you? Probably in the last week, maybe yesterday. 7 out of the 10 of the reasons. And then another high percentage is that there's complaints. And the complaints aren't resolved very well. In other words, the people don't know how to handle them. Now, I put this to the test. I was doing a seminar at the Mall of America. And the Mall of America is the showcase of retail in America, if not the world. And so we were doing a seminar. And then what we did is we took an extended lunch break, and we were working on these things related to delivering positive moments of truth to customers. And we gave everybody a rating form. There's about 40 people in the seminar. They were to go out and shop the stores in the mall. Each person was doing 3, and narrate them on how well they greeted them, said hello to them, asked if they could help them, asked some questions, those kinds of things that would present polite service. And then after they came back, we reviewed the results. Guess what we found? Now remember, this is the Mall of America, showcase of retail. How well do you think they did? You think they're all 100%? Excellent? Nah, here's what we found. We found that in these places, sometimes they couldn't find any help. Sometimes they found people eating lunch instead of helping. Sometimes they found employees talking to their friends instead of helping customers. Sometimes they found employees running the other direction when they came in. Can you believe that? And so they found only about 1/3 of the employees really did a great job. The other 2/3 did an average to poor job. Wow. So when I talk about the greeting, even though it's common sense, we need to remember that. And we need to work at it and to learn to make it unconsciously positive and exceptional in the work that we do. A while back, there was a book called Random Acts of Kindness. And in this book, it talked about how every once in a while you're reading the paper where there's a random act of violence and somebody gets murdered and it's unexplained. Just doesn't even make sense. But it happens. And so the author of the book said what we need to do is every day make an effort to do something nice for people and don't expect anything in return. Just do it. Do you know what superstar customer service is? It's providing planned acts of kindness to people every day. I know about you. That's a good thing. Because Samuel Smiles once said it's an amazing phenomenon that when we help others, we help ourselves. So when we go out of our way to deliver planned act of kindness to people in our customer service roles, it's an amazing thing. We reap positive benefits for ourselves. So we've talked about mental psych, the greeting, and then we need to talk about meeting their needs. Now really this comes down to this. We have to do a good job of being a listener, asking questions, problem solving with our customer, making sure we demonstrate empathy and concern in terms of working with them. And you know what? If we've done the first 2 things well, the customer is going to be more agreeable to us through the meeting the need process. And I believe most customers are great people. There's always a few exceptions, but most are great. So if we're positive starting out, if we greet them in a way that projects, I want to help you, I'm going to help you, and you do it with a smile, when you get to the meeting the need part, it's easy. But we got to be good at listening and good at understanding what they need and be willing to go out of our way to help them in that process. That's what we're doing. We're helping. And then the next thing is we have to follow through. One of the things where service providers fail, both companies and employees in the biggest area, is following through. In other words, they don't say, is there anything else I can do for you? They forget to do, well, let's make sure that I've got your phone number and your email. They don't make a phone call and follow up or send an email saying thank you, or maybe a note card or letter saying thank you. Or if a customer was looking for something and you can't find exactly what they want, you say, you know what, I'm going to find that out for you. And you either point it out somewhere else, or give them a call or an email or a text back that says, hey, I found it, here's what you can do, and then you work with them there. In other words, you're going the extra mile to be able to help the customer. So you don't have to send emails to everybody that you see, although that can be a good idea to do some of that. Maybe your company can do that, but your customers you focus on, see? And you go the extra mile to do that. It takes a little creativity, a little ingenuity to be able to make that happen so that the customers really appreciate the business you're doing. And it really comes from you appreciate that. Sometimes following through is nothing more than with a tremendous smile you say, thank you for coming in. Ben, I really like seeing you today and I appreciate your business. Come back, see me again soon. That in itself sometimes can make the biggest difference. Following through is giving the exclamation point on the great service you've already provided. And then the 5th moment of truth that we want to talk about is handling problems. Because the truth of the matter is, inevitably there are problems. It's not because necessarily sometimes you've done something wrong. Sometimes you have to deal with problems that other people made mistakes on. And now you've got to deal with it. And so how do you handle customer problems or complaints? Well, there's a two-step formula that if you use this, 90% of the time it'll take care of the customer. And the two-step formula is simply this. Deal with the person first, then deal with the problem. So what do we mean by deal with the person? Deal with the person means this, is that you listen, as we talked about earlier, maybe ask a couple questions to understand their situation so you can clarify what's going on. Apologize if necessary. I'm sorry that happened, but I'm glad you've brought it up to me. And then you solve the problem. Now here's the thing that can happen with this, and many customer service providers make that mistake. And I've seen it time and time again flying on airlines. Okay? Because what they do is solve the problem. Oh, Mr. Conlo, I'm sorry you missed your flight. And we had delays all over the place, and let me fix it. Okay? Notice they may have apologized, but it was really about fixing it. Now I can understand a bit. They got a long line and they got a lot of people to deal with. But what I need to hear is, I'm sorry that you're going to be late for your appointment. I know that's an inconvenience to you. That's where people miss it. That's what dealing with the person is all about. That's what empathizing is all about. We need to say those kinds of words. And if we do that, what it tends to do is calm people down. I remember a friend of mine explained a story to me that happened to him. They were late in a flight. Everybody was delayed and there was long lines trying to get the flights fixed. This guy in front of my friend John was yelling and screaming at this poor customer service provider. Just was not very nice. He was abusive. And he finally got done, and then John came up. And John looked at the customer service person and noticed, he turned some of this stuff around. He looked to him and says, "Boy, you're having a rough day," is what he said to the agent. He says, "That guy was really upset. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I know that guy was upset, but he took it out on you, and you're not the one that made the plane late. I appreciate you hanging in there with all of us while we're getting our flights redirected." And the customer agent looked at him and got a smile on her face. She says, "How can I help you, sir?" And she says, "Well, I need to get to, I think he was going to Tampa." And she worked with him, and she says, "I'm going to get you all taken care of." And he says, "That's great." And she says, "Oh, by the way, here's an extra token of our appreciation for the kind of customer you are." And he says, "Oh, really?" She says, "Yeah." And she says, "That last guy, his luggage going in a different direction." No, I'm not saying that agent was right for doing that, but I'll tell you what, John was right in how he treated her. And the same thing works as we're working with other people. A little empathy goes a long way. Now, what can you do if all else fails? What if dealing with the person, dealing with the problem doesn't work? And how do you know it didn't work? You keep going around in circles on the problem. You ever had that in a customer service situation where it seemed like they had it handled, but you keep going around and the customer seems to get a little more frustrated, a little more angry? Then you got to do something different. And really what you got to do is size up your customer. If the customer is kind of direct, just get to the point. The next time. Now first deal with the person, deal with the problem, then get to the point. If the customer is kind of whiny, some customers like this, "Oh, this always happens to me. Why is this going on?" Then what you need to do is say, "Sir, I'm going to help you out on this thing. Okay, stick with me here. I'm on your side. Let's work together on this." So it's kind of like coming to their rescue, if you will. And then the third thing, some people are analytical. They get out the paperwork and say, "Well, it says right here in the guidelines that you should do this." Then say, "Well, let's look at this together and we'll go through this step by step." See, what you're doing here, in a sense, is matching or mirroring your customer, in a sense, in terms of the kind of customer they are. And you do that quickly, sizing them up. So if they're direct, be direct. If they're need rescue and they're really whining about it, come to their rescue that way and help them out. If they're analytical and they're going step by step, be analytical, go step by step, and that'll help you. Now, another way to do it, if all else fails, is get help. Sometimes you're not the one to help them, get someone else to come in, and it's no disgrace to be able to have that done. So what have we talked about so far? Let's review this real quick. We've talked about taking moments of misery and turning them into moments of magic or excellent customer experience for our customers. We talked about we got to have mental psych. Now, there's first step to satisfying the customer is in here. If we're positive and start out right, the customer's going to feel better and we're going to do better. And then have a positive greeting and take care of their problem. Be a good listener and help them, want to help. And then go the extra mile to be able to follow through. Could be a thank you. It could be a follow-up email or text that you send the customer to show them that you care. And then, of course, there's dealing with problems. And we talked about 2 steps. Deal with the person, deal with the problem, and what to do if all else fails. And these all go together. They're not separate things that are disconnected. They're all interconnected for us to be able to deliver service that when the customer's done working with us, they kind of look like that and go, wow, that's what we're looking for. I was at a meeting, one of our clients, and I finished that one, but it went over a little bit, so my time to the next meeting was a little shorter, so I had to hustle, but I was starving. I didn't have time to eat breakfast, so halfway on the way to my second appointment, I noticed there was a McDonald's. Now, I normally don't go to McDonald's for lunch, but I was hungry, so I thought, boom, I'm going in there to get something quick, so I at least stop the grumbling in my stomach. So I went in there. Well, it was around lunchtime, and it was busy. And there was about 3 or 4 lines going, so I got into one line. And I noticed the line that I was in, people were talking up in the front. They're going, wow, wow, they're all talking about someone over there. I noticed the other line just kind of going like they always go in a busy place like that at lunchtime. And so as I get up to the counter, this woman looks at me with a smile bigger than I've ever seen before in my life. She says, hi, welcome to McDonald's. How may I help you? And I went, I'd want a number 2. She says, that'll be great. I'll get that real quick. You want an apple pie with that too? I said, sure. She skips, she says, hang on, I'll be right back. She skips over the pop area. She goes, she gets 3 pops going all at once. And then she goes over and does some fries, like this. She comes over, gets all my stuff, bags it up. She says, it's been great seeing you. You come back, see me real soon. And I walk out of that line and I'm going, whoa. I notice the other lines, the people are going, next, next. And what I just discovered is she did all these moments of truth in a matter of minutes. And I also noticed that it has a positive effect on me, that had a positive effect on other people. In fact, the truth of the matter was, the other customers and I were somewhat embarrassed because we just don't get that kind of great service that often. We couldn't believe it. But she did it. And I also remember, she had all these buttons and pins on her for awards, I would think, for delivering great service. And what it reminded me is we can deliver great service anytime if we really care. And that's what I want to do, is I want to come back to care. Now, Babe Ruth, I don't know if you knew this or not, at the end of his brilliant career was traded from the New York Yankees to the Boston Braves. And in one inning alone, Babe Ruth made enough errors to allow 5 Cincinnati Red runs to score. And as he was slowly jogging off the field, the crowd was merciless. They were yelling at him, they were booing him, they were hissing at him. And as he got to the dugout, the negative noise shook the stadium. Suddenly, a little boy jumped out of the stands. He ran up to Esbambito and grabbed him around his great spindly legs and gave him a hug. Babe Ruth bent over, picked the boy up. Little boy had tears streaming down his face. Babe Ruth wiped them off, and then he tapped him on the head, said a few kind words to him, and helped him back into the stands. Now, while Babe Ruth did this, the crowd got quiet. They realized that they misjudged this man. That maybe it wasn't his past glorious successes and home runs that mattered, nor even his present dismal failures on the field. You see, here was a guy who has a lousy day, and everybody was on his case. But what did he do? He still cared about a little boy. And when the crowd realized this, they stood up and gave him a thunderous standing ovation. And when I read that story, I thought to myself, that's a lot like customer service. Not everything goes according to plan. Not everything works out well. But when it's all said and done, if it does work out well or it doesn't, what matters most? See, the service business is a people business. And people are about relationships. And how do we get customers coming back? We build positive, strong relationships. We care about what we're doing. That's what we do. That's what I wish for you. And if you can do that with all your heart, you'll be a superstar customer service person. Thanks so much for coming. I enjoyed having you here. Have a great day.